Coming into this year, it was a lot of question marks in how we were going to put this team together.
Number 21, Tim Duncan.
There was some hope there, but also a little bit of shakiness, a little bit of disappointment because, we felt like we weren't consistent enough. But things started to fall into place.
Number 12, Bruce Bowen.
The young guys really stepped it up and played great. So, there were some surprises. We actually started getting some confidence and felt like, hey, you know what? Man, winning should be our norm here. We should be doing this all the time.
Number 3, Steven Jackson.
The one thing I think we've relied on all year is knowing that when we have a loss, we're going to come back and play really well and be real focused. Our team, it's kind of a throwback mix of character and determination, and we just do things the right way.
Number 9, Tony Parker.
Having Tim here, he was like a gift from God for me. He has such a humility about him, such a great strength about him.
5-0, David Robinson.
To be able to play alongside him and put together this run that we've had for the Spurs and watch this team and the city kind of grow up and enjoy this, that's been the best part. Coming into this year, I knew this was going to be my last year. I just knew it. Obviously I didn't know what the outcome was going to be, but right from the get-go, I knew this. Hey, if this was going to be my last go-around, I was going to make it good.
Got Sprewell underneath the glass. Fires at the buzzer. No! The San Antonio Spurs win their first ever NBA championship.
Nearly 4 years had passed since the Spurs captured the NBA crown, an achievement many years in the making for both the city of San Antonio and superstar David Robinson.
For so long, this is what you dream about. And now I can't even talk about it. I mean, it's incredible. I'm blessed.
With Robinson and Tim Duncan, the Spurs looked to build a dynasty, but learned that staying atop the mountain was even harder than the climb itself. And the harshest lessons were administered by the LA Lakers, who destroyed the Spurs in the playoffs 2 years in a row, on their way to 3 straight titles.
And now they're just raining embarrassment on the Spurs' heads.
As they began the 2003 season, the Spurs were not just a team in search of redemption, but also a team in transition. Robinson had announced he would retire after the season, and a youth movement had begun in San Antonio, one that was filled with question marks.
I guess we had to be patient more than anything and get some answers. We didn't really understand in the beginning of the year how people would come along. Is Steven Jackson going to be a player? Is Bono going to be a player? Is Tony Parker's sophomore season going to show that he's just average?
The early weeks of the season would only raise more doubts as the younger players endured their growing pains.
We was not sure about the starting 5. Pop was not sure with Stephen Jackson. Manu was hurt. I didn't have a good start, at the beginning of the year. So everything was kind of shaky.
And the problems were becoming costly as the Spurs were quickly losing ground in the Western Conference standings.
We've still got a lot of young type mistakes out there out of inexperience, so we're hoping that we can continue to cut them bit by bit.
Every time I did something wrong, I look at him and say, him shaking his head and all that, so I was trying to figure out what he wanted and what he didn't.
Once seen as title contenders, the Spurs were losing to teams they should have been dominating.
JT pulls up, falling backwards.
Yes, sir.
Hits it in the buzzer.
That's
and
money.
The Hawks have the victory.
Duncan against Knight. Drives on him, runs across the lane. Shot, no good. Rebound. Ball tipped and it's over.
With losses mounting and players struggling to find their way, many teams might have seen their season spiral out of control. But the 2003 San Antonio Spurs were different. The Spurs had a unique support system, anchored by one of the game's most revered players, David Robinson. They also had hard-working Malik Rose, a holdover from their 1999 championship team. There was the hard-earned experience of reliable Bruce Bowen, and most importantly, a quartet of veterans in the twilight of their careers. Though their time in the spotlight had long since passed, they were willing to step back and embrace their new roles as guiding figures for the team.
There has been a time going by in the course of a ball game where you look over your shoulder and you see Steve Smith talking to Steven Jackson. You see Danny Ferry leading us in cheers from the sideline. You see Steve Kerr, he's always had a point or two to get across. And Kevin Willis using his manly father voice.
The main thing is to always encourage that young guy to maintain his focus, don't get discouraged, don't get down himself, don't lose any confidence. And just letting guys know that, hey, just stay in there, stick together, and we'll be all right.
And to complement their chemistry, the Spurs had an unselfish superstar, the reigning MVP.
Tim Duncan really kicked it into gear. Timmy really became our team leader.
They look to Duncan. Duncan with the shot. Oh, big three, Tim Duncan.
He's somebody who's naturally, intrinsically quiet, but I realized that he was going to have to step up in that regard, and he did that. He realized that he could have an effect on games even more than he was.
For the win. 3 seconds left against Karl Malone, the fall away. Yes! The Spurs win at the buzzer!
Duncan. Duncan makes the move over Powell. It goes! Tim Duncan!
Like all of the game's true greats, Duncan had begun to raise the level of his teammates' play. And through their ups and downs, he had never lost faith in them.
The biggest thing that's happened over the course of the year is how he's trusted his teammates. From Tony to Manu to Steven to Bruce to Malik to all of them. He's really embraced the entire team and what they can do for him and how they can take him to the next level.
It really is Tim Duncan's team now. He's the guy that's slapping people on the back of the head, patting them on the butt when they do things well, demanding more when they're not executing or focusing, and that's good stuff. You know, that's Larry Bird stuff.
Feeding off Duncan's leadership, the Spurs began to gel, and in the second half of the season, they would become the NBA's hottest team.
Bowen again, wide open. Take that! Another tray! Oh, mama!
Oh, Speedy! See it, Speedy, see it! Here come the Spurs with numbers. Money grows its runner. The spin. What a pivot by Rose. And Manu takes it away. That's the dimension of this game. Leading it off for Kevin Slam dunk.
Ferry looks to bring it in. In the corner to Jackson. He shoots for three. Yeah! Steven Jackson with a cold-blooded three. Holy cow!
I saw people learning and understanding that our system worked. I saw people learning and believing in what we did. Every win that we got a little more confident.
Tony on the run. He does it! He got it! 1.2 to play! Tony Parker drains it!
Ending the season on a tear, San Antonio won 32 of its last 38 games, finishing the season with the league's best record. But before looking ahead to the postseason, the team set aside a night to look back at the career of David Robinson, the man who had been the Spurs' cornerstone since 1989.
David has defined this franchise. His personality, his desire, love for the game, he really has made this franchise of a mold of him. And he's been a friend, he's been like a brother, and it's going to be hard to think about starting a game, going out on the court, getting ready for the ball to go up and not seeing David.
We're here tonight to try to attempt to repay a man that's done so much for this community and done so much for this team. So many times we go to war with your values, your principles, and your morals, and they're firmly embedded in the backbone of this team. And I, for one, dread the day, that you step into the locker room next year and you're not there. And you're not there on the court to be the heart and soul of this team. And I just want to say that we all are going to miss you and we love you and you're just special.
Entering the postseason, the Spurs were intent on putting their past playoff failures behind them. But there was danger ahead in the 8th-seeded Phoenix Suns, who had beaten them 3 or 4 times in the regular season. And in Game 1, the Suns would battle them down to the wire.
Stoudemire tries a three. Banked it in. Amari Stoudemire hits a three to tie the game. And the Spurs take time with 7.9 left.
Phoenix scared us. It was a 1-8. We shouldn't win. We felt like it was like something you had to win. And if we didn't win, it would have been a disaster.
And disaster would strike.
Suns are out of timeouts. He missed. Robinson tips it. Stoudemire. Marbury has it. Here's Marbury on the drive. He's a three. Oh! at the buzzer.
To lose that first game, it really shook me. I think it really shook all of us.
There was a feeling in the locker room. There was a resolve that said, hey, we let this get away from us. We can't, this is unacceptable. And we were up against the wall. Game 2, second game of the playoffs already, we were basically facing a must-win situation.
With the Spurs receiving an early wake-up call, their role players would rise to answer it.
Jackson with a huge second quarter. Action Jackson. Ginobili for 3. Leonard Ginobili from downtown.
Coming off of that loss, there was no doubt in any of our minds that we were going to come back and play very well and play very hard. And I think the losses have always kind of motivated us and almost given us a little bit of an edge, because coming back, we knew this isn't going to happen again. We're not going to let it happen again.
Not only was their determination growing stronger, so was their defense. And as they clamped down on the Suns, the Spurs would win 3 of the next 4 games.
Jacobson, but it was tapped away. Wanted to go to Bruce Bowen. It's that Speedy Claxton. Good move. Get him to the guard. Speedy takes it home.
Leading 3-2, the league's top team was demonstrating its superiority. All that remained was to finish off the upstart Suns and move on. But in Game 6, Phoenix showed no signs of cooperating, and the Spurs would again be tested.
Greg Popovich is really upset. Well, they smell blood, Gary. Somebody's bleeding. Right now, the Suns are going after it. They are kicking our ass physically. How many offensive rebounds? 9 offensive rebounds and 4 turnovers. Because they're shoving it down our throat, and we're back on our heels.
But in the fourth quarter, the Spurs would show a resolve they hadn't always shown before, as they looked to close out the Suns.
Duncan's going to come across the paint, brings it out to Jackson. Jackson with a look at the 3, and he has just shot a dagger.
And the Spurs now have retaliated.
The time expires, and the Spurs move into the second round, the semifinal round.
Do you see any celebrating by the Spurs? I don't.
We're thrilled to have been able to beat them, and I'm very, very happy we don't have to play them again.
Awaiting San Antonio in the conference semifinals was their greatest nemesis, the 3-time champion Lakers, who had knocked them out of the playoffs 2 straight years. But that was all history now to the Spurs.
It wasn't just going to be about, them just dominating because they showed up in the building. They were going to have to play as hard as we were in order to get victories.
I was definitely looking forward to playing those guys because I wanted to be the one to end that so-called dynasty or whatever. I wanted to be on the team that beats those guys.
It's a psychological thing. We felt like we matched up well with them. We felt like, this is a team we can beat. But you got to beat them. You got to go play.
The Lakers had the confidence and swagger of champions and seemed unfazed by the challenge of facing the league's best.
You play the game with an elegance and a grace that is a joy to behold. Congratulations, Tim Duncan, 2002-2003 NBA Most Valuable Player.
The honor for Duncan only seemed to provide extra fuel for Shaquille O'Neal.
Here's Shaq. Shaquille O'Neal powering his way to the basket.
And the series began with a familiar sense of frustration for the Spurs.
Stops everybody on the board. We want to push it. Let's push it at him.
But Tim Duncan was ready to show the Lakers that this year would be different.
Duncan for the power jam with the right hand. I'd say the crowd is back into it. Tim Duncan rejected it with authority.
As he had done all season, Duncan would elevate his teammates' play as well, and the Spurs took control of the game.
Two-man game with Duncan. Feeds Manu, cuts it inside, reverse slam dunk by Manu Ginobili. Wow!
The San Antonio Spurs have taken game 1 of this best of 7.
In Game 2, a member of the Spurs supporting cast would steal the spotlight.
Blocked by the Spurs. Duncan leads Bowen.
Here's Bowen. Bruce Bowen on the breakaway. Bryant putting the move on Bowen. Blocked by Bowen. How about Bruce Bowen?
Bowen's suffocating defense had come to be expected, but another part of his arsenal would take the Lakers by surprise.
Left corner, Bowen fires a 3 from there. It's good. Jackson in the front court. Right side for Bowen. Open 3, right corner.
Yes! Another 3!